The night is still holding on. It does not leave quickly. It lingers, quietly, as if it has grown comfortable resting over the wide desert. The sky above is deep and dark, filled with soft, distant stars. They do not flicker sharply. They glow gently, like small, quiet thoughts drifting in a silent mind. Below, the land stretches out in long, open spaces. Sand. Dry earth. Low, worn paths that have been walked many times. And near the slow, steady water of the Nile River, a small settlement rests in the final moments before dawn. The homes are simple. Mud walls shaped by hand. Roofs made from bundled reeds and packed earth. The surfaces are uneven, carrying the marks of the people who built them, finger lines, small dents, quiet imperfections that remain over time. Inside one of these homes, a man lies asleep. His body is still, but not completely relaxed. There is a quiet tension in his arms, in his shoulders. It does not leave him, even in rest. His hands are rough. The skin is thick, worn from long use. Small scars cross his fingers, his palms. Some are old, faded into pale lines. Others are newer, still slightly raised. These hands know weight. They know friction. They know the steady pull of something much heavier than the body itself. Outside, the wind moves slowly. It carries fine grains of sand across the ground, creating a faint whispering sound. It is not loud. It does not disturb. It simply exists. And in the distance, the river continues its quiet movement. Water touching water. A slow, endless flow. This is the sound that fills the silence. This is the sound that has always been there. The man begins to wake. Not suddenly. Not all at once. First, there is a small shift in his breathing. Then a slight movement in his hand. His eyes remain closed, but something in his body has already begun to return to the day. It is not thought that wakes him. It is rhythm. A rhythm that has been repeated so many times that it no longer needs to be remembered. It simply happens. His eyes open slowly. The inside of the room is dim, but not completely dark. A faint gray light has begun to enter through a small opening in the wall. He does not move right away. He listens. The wind. The river. And now, the quiet stirring of others nearby. Another man shifts in his sleep. Someone outside steps lightly across the ground. The world is waking. He sits up slowly. The ground beneath him is firm. The surface has been smoothed over time by bodies resting, rising, resting again. He places his feet down. The earth is cool. That coolness will not last long. He knows this. He stands and steps outside. The air touches his skin gently. It carries the scent of dust, faint moisture from the river, and something else, something still and quiet that belongs only to this hour. Around him, others begin to emerge. No one speaks loudly. There is no need. A few soft words pass between them, low and calm, but most remain silent. They are not alone. But they do not need to announce their presence. They feel it. Together. Above the horizon, a pale line of light begins to form. It stretches slowly, almost reluctantly, across the edge of the world. The desert reveals itself little by little. Shapes return. Edges become visible. And far in the distance, something vast begins to separate itself from the darkness. The Great Pyramid of Giza. At first, it is only a shadow. A large, unmoving form. Then, as the light grows, its lines become clearer. Its sides catch the faintest hint of brightness. It does not change. It does not move. It simply stands, waiting. The men do not stare at it for long. Their attention remains close. On their hands. On their bodies. On the small tasks that begin the day. One man lifts a clay jar and drinks. Slowly. Carefully. Another adjusts the cloth wrapped around his shoulders, brushing away grains of sand that settled during the night. Someone else kneels near a small fire that has nearly gone out. He adds a few dry pieces of wood. The flame returns quietly, without urgency. Food is simple. Flat bread. A few dates. An onion, broken and shared. Each bite is taken slowly. Not because they must be careful, but because there is no reason to rush. Eating is part of the rhythm. Like waking. Like breathing. Like walking. The light continues to grow. The sky softens. The ground shifts from gray to pale gold. The river reflects the change, its surface catching the first clear light of morning. Some of the men walk toward it. Their steps leave faint marks in the sand, marks that will soon be softened by wind. They kneel at the water's edge. They wash their hands, their faces. The water is cool. It wakes them gently. There is no shock. Only a quiet beginning. Behind them, the pyramid becomes more defined. Each layer still hidden within the whole, but its presence stronger now. It feels closer, even from this distance. It feels certain. The men return. One by one. They gather their tools. Wooden sledges. Thick ropes made from twisted fibers. Simple wooden levers. Each item is lifted, checked, adjusted. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is extra. Everything has a place. Everything has been used before. They begin to stand. Not all at once. Slowly. One. Then another. Then the rest. There is a brief moment where they do nothing. They stand. They breathe. They feel the morning settle fully around them. This moment is quiet. Important. It separates rest from labor. Stillness from movement. Then, without a call, without a signal, they begin to walk. Their steps are steady. Not fast. Not slow. Just even. The ground beneath them changes as they move. Some parts are firm, packed down by many feet. Other parts are softer, shifting slightly with each step. The path is not marked with signs. But it is known. It has been walked too many times to be forgotten. Faint grooves run along sections of the ground. Long, shallow lines carved by the dragging of sledges. These marks do not disappear completely. They fade. They soften. But they remain. The path remembers. The men walk in quiet formation. Not arranged. Not ordered. But naturally aligned by habit. Their bodies know where to be. Their minds do not need to guide them. Ahead, the stones wait. Large blocks of limestone. Cut. Shaped. Heavy beyond easy thought. They sit in stillness, as if resting before their own journey begins. The men approach. They do not rush toward them. They arrive. Slowly. Each man taking his place without instruction. A rope is lifted. It is thick. Rough against the hands. It carries the marks of long use, slight fraying, darkened fibers where many palms have held it. The rope is laid across the front of a wooden sledge. The stone rests upon it. Still. Silent. A man reaches out and touches the stone. Not to test it. Not to question it. Simply to feel it. The surface is cool. Slightly uneven. Solid. Unmoving. Others step into position. Hands find the rope. Feet press into the ground. Bodies lean forward slightly. No one counts. No one calls out. There is only a shared sense. A moment. A breath. Then they pull. The rope tightens. The sledge resists. For a brief moment, nothing happens. Then, slowly, the stone shifts. A small movement. But enough. They pull again. And again. The sledge begins to move. The sound is soft. A low scraping. Wood against dampened earth. Dust rises slightly, then settles. The men fall into rhythm. Pull. Pause. Breathe. Pull. Pause. Breathe. A man steps forward with a small container. He pours water onto the ground ahead of the sledge. The sand darkens. This makes the movement easier. This small act is known to all. It has been done many times. It will be done many more. The sun continues to rise. The light grows stronger. The warmth increases, slowly, steadily. The air begins to dry. The men do not speak. Not because they cannot, but because there is no need. The work fills the space. The rhythm holds them. Each movement connects to the next. Nothing stands alone. The pyramid in the distance grows slightly larger. Still far. But no longer distant. It watches. Or perhaps it simply exists. The men do not question it. They move toward it. Step by step. Pull by pull. The day unfolding around them, as it always does. Quietly. Gently. Without end. The light has now fully settled across the land. It does not arrive all at once. It spreads, slowly and gently, touching the sand, the tools, the quiet movement of the men as they continue their work. The sun is still low, but its warmth can already be felt resting on the skin. Not harsh. Not heavy. Just present. The men lean forward again. Their hands hold the rope in a way that feels natural, as if the rope has shaped itself around their grip over time. The fibers press into their palms, firm but familiar. The sledge beneath the stone resists. It always resists. There is a moment, at the start of each pull, where nothing seems to move. The weight presses down into the earth. The rope tightens. The bodies of the men hold steady. Then, slowly, the stone answers. It shifts. Just a little. Enough. They pull again. The rhythm returns. Pull. Pause. Breathe. Pull. Pause. Breathe. Their breathing is soft but steady. It blends into the morning air, mixing with the faint scrape of wood across dampened sand and the distant, almost hidden sounds of other teams working along nearby paths. Nothing feels separate. Everything belongs to the same quiet pattern. A man near the front adjusts his footing. The ground here is slightly uneven. His foot sinks just a little, then steadies. His body shifts without thought, finding balance again. This is how they move. Not with perfect precision, but with quiet correction. Small changes, made constantly. The sun rises a little higher. Shadows shorten. The air warms, layer by layer. A dryness begins to settle in the throat, in the mouth. One man lifts a clay vessel and takes a small sip of water. He does not drink deeply. He lowers it again, saving the rest. Water is not rushed. Like everything else, it is measured. Ahead, the Great Pyramid of Giza grows clearer. Its surface now holds the light. The edges are sharper. The structure feels closer, more present. Still silent. Always silent. The men do not look at it for long. Their focus remains on the rope. On the ground. On the next movement. They pull again. The sledge moves forward, leaving a shallow track behind it. These tracks will not last long. The wind will soften them. The next team will pass over them. But for now, they are there. A record of effort. A quiet mark of passage. The ground begins to change. It becomes firmer. More compact. The sledge moves slightly more easily here. The men feel this at once. Their bodies recognize the difference. The next pull is smoother. The pause after it is shorter. These small shifts matter. They shape the rhythm of the work. A man walking beside the sledge pours another thin line of water onto the path ahead. The sand darkens again, briefly holding the moisture before it fades back into dryness. This simple act repeats, again and again. It is never forgotten. It is never skipped. The sun climbs higher. The warmth deepens. The air becomes heavier, though still gentle. The men continue. Pull. Pause. Breathe. A slight incline appears in the path. It is not steep, but it is enough to be felt. The rope tightens more sharply now. The weight seems to press downward with greater force. The men lean further forward. Their feet press firmly into the ground. The next pull takes longer. The stone moves more slowly. The pause afterward is longer too. No one speaks. No one needs to. The effort is shared. A nearby team passes at a slight distance, moving in a different direction. Their stone is smaller. Their pace is quicker. For a moment, the two groups exist side by side. There are no greetings. Only brief glances. A quiet acknowledgement. Then they move apart again. Each returning to its own steady rhythm. The incline continues for a short while. Then, just as quietly as it began, it eases. The ground flattens again. The tension in the rope softens slightly. The next pull feels lighter. Not easy, but easier. The pyramid is closer now. Not near enough to touch, but near enough to feel its presence fully. It stands above them, steady and unchanged. Receiving each stone. Holding each layer. The men continue forward. They do not measure distance. They do not count steps. They move until the movement is complete. The morning continues to open around them. Slowly. Gently. Without interruption. By the time the men reach the base, the sun has risen well above the horizon. The light is clear now. It rests fully on the surface of the Great Pyramid of Giza, revealing more of its form. The structure feels immense. But it does not overwhelm. It simply exists. Layer upon layer of stone, each one placed with care, each one resting upon another. The men guide the sledge to a stop. The movement slows naturally. The rope loosens. The weight settles. For a brief moment, everything becomes still again. The pause here is different from the others. It is not just for rest. It is a transition. From movement, to placement. A few men step aside. Others move closer to the stone. Wooden levers are brought forward. They are simple tools. Worn. Smooth in the places where hands have held them many times. The men position the levers beneath the edge of the stone. They do not rush this part. It requires care. Small adjustments are made. A slight shift of angle. A quiet repositioning. Then, together, they press. The stone lifts, just slightly. Enough to move. Enough to guide. Another man places a small support beneath it. The process continues. Lift. Shift. Set. Each movement is controlled. Each motion is slow. There is no force wasted. No sudden action. Only steady pressure. The stone is guided toward its place. Not far now. Just a short distance. But the care remains the same. The men do not change their pace. They do not hurry because the distance is small. Every part of the work is given the same attention. The same quiet respect. The stone reaches its place. There is a final adjustment. A slight push. A small correction. Then it rests. Fully. Firmly. Another piece added. Another layer continuing. The men step back. Not all at once. One by one. Their hands release the tools. Their bodies straighten. Their breathing slows. No one announces completion. It is simply felt. A few men run their hands along the surface of the stone. Checking. Feeling. Ensuring it sits as it should. Satisfied, they step away. The tools are gathered again. The rope is lifted. The sledge is turned. There is no long rest. Only a short pause. Enough to breathe. Enough to drink a little water. Enough to stand in stillness for a moment. Then, as before, they begin to move again. Back along the path. Returning for another stone. The pyramid remains. Unchanged in appearance. But slowly, quietly, it grows. Not in a way that can be seen in a single moment. But in a way that can be felt over time. The men walk. Their steps steady. Their bodies already returning to the rhythm. The day continues. Without urgency. Without end. The return path feels both familiar and slightly different. The men walk the same ground, yet the light has changed. The sun has climbed higher, and with it, the warmth has begun to settle more deeply into the air. It is no longer just present. It lingers. It rests on the skin and stays there. The sand reflects it softly, holding the heat close to the ground. Each step carries a faint trace of warmth now, a quiet reminder that the day is moving forward. The men do not speak of it. They feel it. Their pace remains steady. Not faster. Not slower. Just as before. The path stretches ahead of them, marked by shallow lines left by the sledges. These marks guide them without needing attention. Their eyes do not follow the path closely, but their feet do. The body remembers. It always remembers. A light breeze moves across the land. It does not cool completely, but it softens the edges of the heat. It carries with it the dry scent of sand and the faint trace of water from the distant Nile River. That scent is subtle. But it is there. A quiet reassurance. As they walk, their shoulders relax slightly. The effort of pulling has passed, for now. This part of the journey is lighter. But it is not rest. It is transition. Their breathing evens out. Their hands loosen, then tighten again around the rope and tools they carry. Ahead, the stones wait again. Still. Silent. Unchanged. Each one holding the same quiet weight. The men approach them as they did before. Without rush. Without hesitation. They take their places. No words are needed. A rope is set. Hands grip. Feet settle. There is a brief moment barely noticeable where everything pauses. Then they pull. The first movement of the second cycle begins. The sledge resists, as always. The weight presses down. The rope tightens. And then, slowly, the stone begins to move again. Pull. Pause. Breathe. Pull. Pause. Breathe. The rhythm returns without effort. It was never lost. It was only waiting. The sun continues to rise. The light grows brighter. The shadows grow shorter. The air thickens, not suddenly, but gradually, like a slow layer being added over everything. A man near the back adjusts his grip. His fingers flex slightly, easing the tension before tightening again. Small movements. Constant adjustments. This is how the body endures. Not through force alone, but through careful balance. Water is poured again onto the sand ahead of the sledge. The darkened path appears briefly, then fades as the moisture disappears. The effect remains. The next pull is smoother. The stone advances. Dust lifts. Then settles. Always settling. The men do not look ahead often. But when they do, the Great Pyramid of Giza stands clearer now. Closer. More defined. It does not call to them. It does not demand. It simply remains. And they move toward it. Again. And again. The sun reaches its highest point slowly. There is no sudden shift. No clear moment when morning becomes midday. It happens gradually. The light becomes stronger. The warmth deepens. The air grows still. By the time the men reach the base once more, the heat has settled fully into the day. It rests on their shoulders. On their backs. On the stone itself. The sledge comes to a stop. The rope loosens. The stone settles into stillness. For a moment, no one moves. Then, quietly, the work of placement begins again. Levers are positioned. Hands press. The stone is lifted, shifted, guided into place. The movements are the same as before. Careful. Measured. Unhurried. The stone finds its place. Another layer continues. The men step back. Their bodies straighten. Their breathing slows. This time, the pause is longer. It is not planned. It is felt. The sun is hot. The air is warm. The body asks for stillness. And so, they allow it. Some men sit. Not heavily. Just lowering themselves onto the ground. Others remain standing, but still. A few walk toward a shaded area near the base, where the angle of the structure offers a narrow strip of relief from the sun. The shade is thin. But it is enough. Water is shared again. Small sips. Measured. A piece of bread is taken. A date. An onion. Simple food. Eaten slowly. The act of eating becomes quieter now. More inward. Less about preparation. More about maintaining. The sounds of the work around them soften. Even though others continue, everything feels slower. The air itself seems to hold still. A man leans his back gently against the stone. He closes his eyes. Not to sleep, just to rest them from the brightness. Another man runs his hand over his arm, brushing away dust and sweat. The movement is slow, almost absent-minded. Time stretches here. It does not move quickly. It does not need to. The pyramid stands above them, unchanged, silent, receiving. The men do not look at it much, but they feel it. They always feel it. After some time no one measures how long the stillness begins to shift. Not suddenly. Just a quiet return. A man stands. Another follows. Then another. The pause ends the same way it began. Without words. Without signal. They gather their tools again. Lift the ropes. Turn the sledge. And begin the walk back once more. The day is not over. It continues. Steady. Unbroken. The light begins to soften, just slightly. Not dim, but less sharp. The heat remains, though it no longer increases. It settles into a steady presence. The men walk again along the path. Their steps are the same. Their rhythm unchanged. There is a quiet sense of continuation now. Not beginning. Not ending. Just ongoing. The work has already been done once. Twice. Now it continues. The stones wait, as they always do. The men arrive, as they always do. The rope is set. Hands grip. Bodies lean. And the pull begins again. Pull. Pause. Breathe. Pull. Pause. Breathe. The repetition is not tiring in the way one might expect. It becomes something else. Something steady. Something known. The mind does not wander far. It stays close. With the movement. With the breath. With the ground beneath each step. A soft wind passes through again. It carries a faint shift in the air. A hint that the day will, eventually, begin to cool. But not yet. Not for a while. The pyramid remains ahead. Always ahead. Even when they move away from it. It is always part of their awareness. A fixed presence in a changing day. The stone moves. The path shortens. The rhythm continues. Unbroken. The afternoon begins to soften in a way that is almost unnoticeable. The sun is still high, but something in the light has changed. It no longer presses as firmly. It begins, very slowly, to loosen its hold on the land. The men continue their work. Their movements remain steady, but there is a quiet shift in the pace. Not slower, not faster, just slightly lighter, as if the weight of the day has settled into something more familiar. They walk the path again. The same ground. The same marks. The same silent understanding guiding their steps. The stones wait. The ropes are set. Hands find their place without searching. Bodies lean forward. And once again they pull. The sledge resists, then yields. The stone moves. Pull. Pause. Breathe. Pull. Pause. Breathe. The rhythm holds them gently, like a current that does not need to be seen to be followed. The air carries a faint movement now. A soft wind that passes across the open land, lifting small traces of dust and letting them fall again just as quietly. It brushes against their skin. Not cooling completely, but easing. A man near the front shifts his shoulders slightly. The movement is small. but it changes the balance just enough. These small changes continue throughout the work. Always adjusting. Always responding. Without thought. The ground beneath the sledge carries the marks of many journeys now. Lines layered over lines. Paths crossing paths. A quiet record of repetition. A history written in soft impressions that will fade, but never completely disappear. The men move forward. The Great Pyramid of Giza grows nearer again. It feels different in this light. The edges are softer. The shadows longer. The structure seems less sharp, more blended into the land around it. Still immense. Still certain. But quieter somehow. They reach the base. The sledge slows. Stops. The rope loosens. The stone rests. The work of placement begins again. Levers slide into position. Hands press down. The stone lifts slightly. Moves. Settles. Each motion is careful. Each adjustment precise. There is no rush. There is never a rush. The stone finds its place. Another piece added. Another layer continuing its silent rise. The men step back. Their bodies straighten slowly. Their arms lower. Their breathing steadies. There is a pause. Not long. Just enough. Then they turn again. The path calls them back. Another stone waits. The sun begins its slow descent. It does not drop quickly. It drifts. Almost as gently as it rose. The light stretches across the land, creating long, quiet shadows that move slowly with the passing time. The heat begins to ease. Not fully, but enough to be felt. The air grows a little lighter. A little more open. The men walk again. Their steps are unchanged. But their bodies feel the shift. There is a quiet release in their movement. A slight softening. The rhythm continues. Pull. Pause. Breathe. Pull. Pause. Breathe. The sound of the work is the same. The feel of it is the same. And yet, the day has moved forward. The path seems shorter now. Not because it has changed, but because it has been traveled many times. Familiarity shapes distance. The stone moves. The sledge slides. The rope tightens and loosens. Again. And again. A man glances briefly toward the horizon. The light there is beginning to warm. A hint of gold. A sign that the day will not last much longer. But there is no change in the work. They continue. As they always do. Until the moment comes. They reach the base once more. The pyramid stands in the softer light. Its surface now carries long shadows that stretch across its sides, giving depth to each layer. The stone is placed. Carefully. Gently. With the same steady movements. The same quiet attention. The men step back. This pause feels slightly different. A little longer. A little deeper. The body knows. The day is nearing its end. But not yet. There is still time. They begin to walk again. One more time. The path feels familiar in a deeper way now. Each step seems to settle more fully into the ground. The air is calmer. The wind softer. The light warmer. The sun lingers high above the land. The rope is lifted. It does. Hands find their place. Bodies lean. And the final pull of the day begins. The sledge moves. Slowly. Steadily. The rhythm remains. Pull. Pause. Breathe. Pull. Pause. Breathe. There is no change in the work. Only a quiet awareness that this is the last time for now. The effort is the same. The care is the same. Nothing is reduced. Nothing is rushed. The stone moves along the path. Dust rises. Settles. The pyramid grows closer. The light wraps around it in soft gold. The shadows deepen. The men reach the base. The sledge comes to rest. The rope loosens. The final stone of the day is guided into place. Levers press. Hands adjust. The stone settles. Still. Complete. The men step back. Their bodies straighten slowly. Their arms lower. Their breathing softens. No one speaks. No one needs to. The work is finished. For now. They turn away from the pyramid. Not quickly. Not all at once. One by one. They begin the walk back. The path is the same. But it feels different. Lighter. The weight is gone. The rope hangs loosely. The tools rest easily in their hands. The sun lowers further. The sky begins to change. Soft gold. Faint orange. A gentle blending of light. The air cools slowly. The breeze carries a quiet relief. The Nile River waits in the distance. Its steady movement unchanged. The men walk toward it. Their steps even. Their breathing calm. There is no urgency. The day has been long. But it has passed as it always does. Step by step. Pull by pull. The settlement comes into view. Small shapes against the wide land. Simple homes. Familiar. The men arrive. They set down their tools. They sit. Some wash their hands in the water. Some drink. Some simply rest. The sounds of the evening are quiet. The wind. The river. Soft voices. Low and calm. The sky darkens slowly. The first stars begin to appear. The same stars. The same quiet light. The men lie down. Their bodies settle into the ground. Their breathing slows. The rhythm of the day fades. The work becomes memory. The night returns. Gently. Quietly. Without end. The night returns the same way it always does. Not suddenly. Not all at once. It gathers. Slowly, gently, like a soft layer placed over the land. The last light fades from the horizon, and the warmth of the day begins to loosen its hold on the air. The heat that rested on the sand, on the stone, on the bodies of the men, drifts away little by little. Coolness settles in. It is not cold. Just calm. Just quiet. The settlement rests again near the steady flow of the Nile River. The water moves as it always has. Unchanged. Unhurried. It does not carry the weight of the day. It simply continues. The men sit or lie near their homes. Some remain awake for a while. Others close their eyes almost immediately. Their bodies know what to do. Rest comes easily after repetition. After effort. After a day that has moved in such a steady, familiar way. A small fire glows in the center of the settlement. It is not large. It does not need to be. Its light is soft. It flickers gently against the mud walls, creating slow, shifting shadows that move without pattern. A man sits near the fire. He holds a piece of bread in his hand, though he is not eating it now. He looks into the flame. Not thinking. Not remembering. just resting his eyes on something that moves slowly. Around him, others speak in low voices. The words are quiet, simple, nothing urgent, nothing that needs to carry far. The sounds blend with the wind, with the distant water, with the soft shifting of sand. Everything feels held together by the same calm presence. There is no separation, no sharp edge between sound and silence. A man leans back against the wall of his home. His eyes close. His breathing deepens. Another stretches out on the ground, pulling a cloth loosely over his body. The earth beneath him still holds a faint warmth from the day. It fades slowly. The sky above opens fully now. Stars appear one by one. Not all at once. Just as the light left gradually, the darkness fills gradually. The stars do not rush into place. They settle. They remain still. They watch without watching. The men do not look at them for long. They are familiar. They have always been there. Like the river. Like the sand. Like the work. A quiet stillness spreads through the settlement. Voices fade. Movements slow. One by one, the men fall into sleep. Their breathing becomes steady. Their bodies loosen. The tension that remained even through rest now begins to release. Not completely, but enough. Enough for the night. The pyramid stands in the distance. Barely visible now. A dark shape against a darker sky. It does not disappear. It never disappears. It simply becomes part of the night. Time moves. But it does not feel like movement. It feels like return. The night deepens. Then softens. The stars remain. Then begin to fade. The sky lightens. And once again the day begins. The rhythm does not break. It continues. Day after day. Night after night. The men wake as they did before. Slowly. Gently. Without need for signal. The same motions. The same quiet beginning. They rise. They step outside. They feel the air. They listen. The wind. The water. The soft stirring of others. Nothing is new. And yet, nothing feels old. Because the rhythm holds everything together. The work begins again. The walk. The rope. The pull. The pause. The breath. The pyramid grows. Not in a way that can be seen in a single day. Not in a way that changes the moment. But in a way that gathers slowly. Layer by layer. Stone by stone. The men do not count these changes. They do not measure the height. They do not track the progress. They move within the work. Not above it. The seasons shift quietly around them. The air grows warmer for longer periods. Then cooler. The river rises. Then falls. But the rhythm remains. Unbroken. The same patterns repeat. The same steps. The same effort. The same quiet understanding. Days become weeks. Weeks become something longer. Time is not counted in numbers. It is felt in the body. In the hands. In the shoulders. In the small changes that happen slowly. A callus thickens. A movement becomes easier. A step becomes more certain. The men do not speak of time passing. They live within it. Each day stands on its own. Complete. Whole. And yet, each day is also part of something larger. Something that continues beyond any single moment. The Great Pyramid of Giza rises slowly. Its presence grows. Its shape becomes more defined, more complete, but never finished. Not in the way a single day finishes. The men continue. They wake. They walk. They pull. They place. They return. They rest. Again. And again. There is no urgency in this. No need to hurry. The work moves at the pace it must. No faster. No slower. The land remains the same. The sky remains the same. The river continues. Always continues. The wind moves across the sand, carrying small grains from one place to another, softening edges, blending paths. The marks of yesterday fade. The work of today begins. The cycle holds. Quietly. Steadily. Without end. The day begins again. As it always does. With stillness. With soft light. With the gentle return of movement. The men rise. They gather. They walk. The stones wait. The ropes tighten. The sledges move. The pyramid stands. Receiving. Holding. Growing. And the rhythm continues. Unchanged. Unbroken. Endless in its quiet repetition. The world does not rush. It does not pause. It simply moves. Slowly. Gently. Like the breath of someone at rest. And within that breath the men continue their work. Before the sun rises fully, before the ropes are lifted and the stones begin to move, there is always a quiet moment for food. It is never rushed. It is never complicated. It is simply part of the rhythm. The men sit or stand near their homes, holding small portions in their hands. Flat bread, firm and slightly rough along the edges, is broken into pieces and shared without ceremony. A few dried dates pass from one hand to another. Sometimes an onion. Sometimes a small portion of fish, brought from the slow waters of the Nile River. The food does not change much from day to day. And yet, it never feels lacking. Because it is enough. Enough to begin. Enough to continue. Enough to return. The act of eating is quiet. A bite. A pause. A breath. No one speaks loudly. No one hurries. The body accepts what it is given, slowly and steadily. Water is taken in small amounts. A sip. Then the vessel is lowered. There is always an awareness of how much remains. Not worry. Just understanding. The men do not think of meals as separate from work. Food is part of the same cycle. Like waking. Like walking. Like resting. Everything is connected. When the food is finished, there is no signal. No clear ending. The moment simply fades into the next. Hands are brushed clean. Cloth is adjusted. Tools are lifted. And the day continues. The tools are simple. They do not shine. They do not draw attention. And yet, they hold the memory of countless days. The wooden sledges are worn smooth along their edges. The grain of the wood shows through in soft lines, shaped over time by friction and use. Each mark tells a quiet story. Not of a single moment, but of repetition. Of steady effort. The ropes are thick, made from twisted plant fibers. They are strong, but not unchanging. Small strands loosen over time. Edges fray slightly. Hands have shaped them, pulled them, held them through many cycles of the day. When a man grips the rope, he feels more than its weight. He feels its familiarity, its history. The wooden levers are shaped to fit the hand. Not perfectly, but closely. Their surfaces are smooth where they are held, rough where they are not. They are lifted again and again, placed beneath stone, pressed into the ground. They do not resist. They assist, quietly, without drawing attention to themselves. No tool is wasted. No tool is forgotten. Each one has a place. Each one returns to that place at the end of the day. The men do not speak of the tools. They do not need to. They use them, care for them, rely on them. And in this quiet relationship, the tools become part of the rhythm as well. The men are not all the same. Though they move together, though they share the same work, each one carries a slightly different pace within. Some move with a steady, unchanging rhythm. Others adjust more often, shifting their grip, their footing, their balance. Some are younger. Their movements are quicker, though still controlled. Others are older. Their pace is slower, but more measured, more exact. There is no competition, no comparison. Each man works within his own strength. And yet, they move as one. A quiet understanding connects them. Not spoken, not explained, but felt. When the rope tightens, they lean together. When the sledge resists, they adjust together. When the pause comes, they rest together. No one leads in a visible way. No one follows. The movement flows through them. A shared rhythm. A collective breath. During the pauses, small gestures pass between them. A hand offering water. A brief glance. A slight nod. These are not signals. They are acknowledgments. Quiet reminders that they are not alone. Even in silence. Especially in silence. The sky above them is never the same. And yet, it is always familiar. In the early morning, it is soft, pale, almost weightless. As the sun rises, it deepens, becomes brighter, stronger. At midday, it stretches wide and open, holding the full light of the sun without shadow. In the afternoon, it begins to shift again. The light softens. The colors warm. Gold begins to appear. Then, slowly, orange. By evening, the sky becomes a quiet blend of fading light. The edges blur. The brightness dims. And the first stars return. The men do not watch the sky closely. But they feel it. They feel the change in light. In temperature. In the movement of air. The sky is not separate from their work. It moves with it. Around it. Through it. The pyramid, the sand, the men, the tools all exist beneath it. All shaped by its quiet changes. The days continue. One after another. Without interruption. Without urgency. Each day begins the same way. Each day unfolds the same rhythm. And yet, each day is its own. Complete. Whole. The Great Pyramid of Giza rises slowly. So slowly that it cannot be seen in a single moment. Only felt across many. The men do not measure this rise. They do not stand back to observe it. They are within it. Part of it. Their work does not feel like building something vast. It feels like repeating something steady. Something known. Something that continues. The path is walked. The rope is pulled. The stone is placed. The body rests. The night returns. And then the day begins again. There is no clear end. No final moment. Only continuation. Quiet. Steady. Endless in its gentle rhythm. Like breath. Like water. Like time itself. Time does not announce itself here. It does not arrive with noise or clear division. It arrives gently, in small shifts that only become clear when remembered. The air changes first. Some mornings feel slightly cooler. Not cold. Just lighter. The wind carries a different feeling across the sand, as if it has traveled from a slightly farther place. Then the sun changes its behavior. It still rises in the same way. But its warmth lingers differently on the skin. Less sharp in some days. More distant in others. The men notice these things without naming them. They do not pause to mark the change. They continue their work. The rhythm remains unchanged. Pull. Pause. Breathe. The pyramid does not respond to seasons. It does not grow faster in warmth or slower in coolness. It simply continues. Layer by layer. Stone by stone. Always present beneath the sky. Always receiving. The path becomes slightly different over time. Certain sections grow firmer. Others soften. Small adjustments appear in the ground as water shifts its course near the slow-moving Nile River. The river itself rises and falls in a quiet cycle that the men know without needing to observe closely. When it rises, the land near it becomes more alive. When it falls, the edges dry again. And the work continues through both. Nothing stops. Nothing waits. There are days that feel almost identical. Not in exact detail, but in feeling. The same light. The same wind. The same steady movement of bodies along the path. On these days, time feels less like a line and more like a circle. The men wake. They walk. They pull. They place. They return. And by evening, nothing seems to have changed. And yet everything has. Because even repetition creates distance. Even sameness carries change when it is lived fully. The tools become more familiar in the hand. The rope feels less like an object and more like an extension of movement itself. The body adapts quietly. Stronger in some ways. More efficient in others. Without instruction. Without awareness. The rhythm teaches them. Not through words. But through use. A man tightens his grip slightly differently than he did before. Another leans with a fraction more balance. Another times his breathing to the pull more naturally than before. None of this is discussed. It simply happens. The work refines itself through repetition. And the men move within that refinement. The Great Pyramid of Giza continues to rise. Not visibly in the moment. But continuously across days that feel the same. Each stone placed becomes part of something larger that is never fully seen from within. The men at the base do not think of the top. Those pulling the stones do not think of the final shape. They think only of the next movement. The next pull. The next placement. And yet, the structure grows into something precise. Layer upon layer aligning with quiet accuracy. Corners forming. Edges extending. Angles meeting in ways that feel both simple and inevitable. The work does not feel like construction in the modern sense. It feels like placement. Like returning something to where it belongs. Stone by stone. Moment by moment. The pyramid is not discussed. It does not need explanation. It is understood through presence alone. A constant in their environment. A silent companion to the rhythm of labor. Midday does not arrive suddenly. It expands. The sun climbs until the air feels fully filled with light. Shadows shorten and settle close to the ground. The world becomes bright, but still. The men continue their work through this brightness. Their movements become slightly more economical. Less wasted motion. More direct effort. The pauses lengthen slightly. Not from hesitation, but from necessity. The heat encourages stillness between actions. So the rhythm adapts. Pull. Pause. Breathe. Longer pause. Then again. Pull. The body learns this adjustment. It does not resist it. It accepts it as part of the same ongoing pattern. Water is shared more often during this time. Small amounts. Measured. Each sip bringing a brief sense of relief that passes quickly, leaving only continuity behind. Even in rest, there is no separation from work. The men sit near their tools. Near the stone. Near the path they will return to. The world does not divide into work and pause. It remains one continuous experience. Soft. Steady. Unbroken. Eventually, the light begins to change again. It is subtle at first. Almost unnoticeable. The brightness softens. The air loosens. The heat no longer deepens. It simply remains. The men feel this shift not in thought, but in movement. Their bodies recognize it. Their steps feel slightly lighter. Their breathing steadier. The final cycles of the day begin. The last stones are moved along the path. The final placements are made. Each action still careful. Still exact. But carrying the quiet awareness that the day is nearing its end. The pyramid receives these final stones without change. It does not become more complete in a visible way. But something within its structure continues to form. A slow accumulation that will only be seen across time. The men step back from the final placement. There is no celebration. Only a pause that feels slightly deeper than the others. A shared stillness. A recognition that the rhythm will now turn again toward return. The return begins the same way it always does. Without instruction. Without signal. The tools are lifted. The ropes are gathered loosely. The path is taken again in reverse. The sun lowers slowly. The sky begins its gentle transformation. Warm tones spreading across the horizon. The air cools gradually. The land softens in appearance. The men walk together. Their steps unhurried. Their bodies quiet. The work behind them does not feel left. It feels paused. As if it will continue again without difficulty. The Nile River appears once more in the distance as they approach their settlement. Its movement unchanged. Its presence steady. A reminder that nothing here truly ends. Only returns. The men arrive. They set down their tools. They sit. They rest. The fire is small again. The evening is calm. The sky fills slowly with stars. One by one. Without urgency. Without pattern that needs to be understood. Just appearing. Just existing. And the day fades. Not into silence. But into continuation. Night arrives without a clear edge. One moment there is still color in the sky, soft gold, and fading orange. The next moment, it is simply gone. Replaced by deep blue, then darker still. And finally, the steady presence of stars. The men are already resting by then. Some lie fully still on the ground near their homes. Others remain sitting for a while, close to small fires that burn low and quiet. No one speaks loudly. There is nothing that needs to be carried far. Everything important has already been said during the day through movement, through effort, through repetition. The firelight is soft. It does not reach far. It only touches what is close. A hand. A face. The edge of a wall made of mud and straw. Beyond that, the night remains open and wide. The air is cooler now. Not cold. Just gentle. It moves across the settlement in soft waves, passing over sleeping bodies and quiet spaces between homes. The men breathe more slowly here. Their shoulders relax deeper into rest. Their bodies begin to forget the weight they carried during the day. Not completely, but enough for sleep. The settlement near the Nile River feels different at night. Not smaller, just quieter. The river itself is still moving, as it always does. A presence in the dark that does not change its rhythm. A steady reminder that time continues even when eyes are closed. One man remains awake a little longer. He sits near the edge of his home. His hands rest loosely on his knees. He is not thinking in clear words. His mind moves gently between impressions. The feel of rope. The weight of stone. The sound of wood sliding over earth. These thoughts do not form a story. They simply exist. Then they fade. His eyes close slowly. And he joins the rest of the night. Sleep comes easily here. Not because life is simple, but because it is consistent. The body recognizes the rhythm it has lived through all day. And it follows that rhythm into rest. The men sleep in different positions. Some curled slightly. Some stretched out. Some leaning against walls that hold them gently in place. The ground beneath them still holds a faint warmth from the day. It fades slowly into the night air. Above them, the stars remain unchanged. They do not move quickly. They do not demand attention. They simply exist in quiet distance. A few men dream. Not in sharp images, but in soft impressions. The feeling of pulling. The sensation of movement. The steady resistance of weight becoming motion. These dreams do not disturb rest. They continue it in another form. As if the day has not ended completely. Only shifted. The pyramid stands in the distance, unseen now. But not absent. It is there in the same way it is during sleep. Not as a thought, but as a presence. A shape that belongs to the world even when it is not being looked at. Time passes through the night without announcement. There are no markers. No divisions. Only quiet continuation. At some point, without clear beginning, the darkness begins to soften. Not all at once, but gently. As if the sky is remembering how to hold light again. The stars fade slowly. The deep blue lightens. A faint line appears near the horizon. The men do not all wake at the same moment. There is no call. No signal. Just a gradual return of awareness. One man opens his eyes. Then another. Then another. They do not rise immediately. They remain still for a while. Listening. Feeling. The air is cool. The ground quiet. The river still moving in the distance. The world is not different from the night before. And yet it is already becoming day again. Someone sits up slowly. Another stretches his arm. A quiet shift moves through the settlement. The beginning of movement. Not yet work. Not yet effort. Just return. The same rhythm begins again without instruction. It has never left. It only paused. The men stand. They step outside. The sky is pale now. Almost colorless at first. Then slowly, gently, light begins to form. By the time the first full light reaches the land, the men are already moving. Not in rush. Not in reaction. But in familiarity. The day does not start. It continues. The tools are gathered again. The rope is checked again. The path is walked again. The stone waits again. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands in the distance again. Always there. Always receiving. The cycle does not feel like repetition to those within it. It feels like life itself. A structure that holds everything together. Pull. Pause. Breathe. Walk. Rest. Return. Each part of the day shaped by the same quiet rhythm. Not forced. Not imposed. But lived. The land does not resist this rhythm. It holds it. The river continues its steady flow. The wind moves across the sand. The sun rises. And sets. And rises again. And the men continue their work within it. Stone by stone. Day by day. Without need for an ending. Time here does not feel like something that replaces people. It feels like something that carries them. The men who walk the path today are not the same as those who walked it years before. And yet, in many ways, they feel connected. Not through memory alone, but through repetition. Through the shared shape of their days. Some of the younger workers move with a kind of quiet uncertainty at first. Their hands are still learning the rope. Their bodies are still adjusting to the weight of stone. But they do not learn through instruction alone. They learn by standing beside others. By watching. By repeating. By feeling the rhythm settle into them over time. An older worker may not speak much to them. He does not need to. His presence is enough. The way he grips the rope. The way he shifts his stance. The way he pauses before a pull. These small details become the lesson. Not spoken. Just lived. And slowly, the younger men become part of the same rhythm. The same steady motion that has existed for as long as the work itself. There is no clear beginning to it anymore. Only continuation. When the day's work is finished, life does not suddenly become separate from it. There is no sharp line between labor and living. They blend into each other gently. After the final return, after the tools are set down, the men return to their small spaces near the river. The Nile River remains close, always offering water, always offering stillness. Some men repair small things in their homes. A broken basket. A torn piece of cloth. A rope that needs tightening for the next day. Others simply sit. Not speaking. Not planning. Just existing in the soft space between effort and rest. Food is prepared again in the evening. Not in abundance. But in consistency. Bread. Grain. Dates. Simple things that require little thought. The act of eating remains slow. Unhurried. Almost quiet enough to feel like part of breathing itself. Children move nearby sometimes. Watching. Listening. Learning without realizing it. They see the rhythm before they understand it. The way adults rise and return. The way tools are treated not as objects, but as companions of work. Even the silence carries instruction. The Great Pyramid of Giza does not feel like a finished object to the people who build it. It does not feel like something separate from them. It feels like something they are part of. Something that grows in the same way they live. Not in sudden change, but in steady accumulation. On some days, it seems closer. On others, it feels distant again. But it is always present. A fixed point in the landscape of movement. The men do not speak of its purpose in abstract terms. They do not step back and describe it as a whole. They know it through contact. Through lifting. Through placing. Through returning. The structure becomes familiar in the same way a river becomes familiar. Not because it is fully understood, but because it is always there. Always continuing. There is a strange kind of comfort in repetition that stretches across long time. Not excitement. Not change. But something quieter. Something steadier. The men wake each day into the same sequence of actions. And yet, it does not feel empty. It feels full in its own way. Because the body does not resist what it knows. It settles into it. A hand finds the rope without searching. A foot finds the path without hesitation. A breath adjusts itself to the pull before the pull begins. This is not boredom. It is alignment. The mind does not need to wander far. It stays close to the body. Close to the rhythm. Close to the present moment that repeats without exact sameness. Even small variations, the weather, the wind, the weight of a stone, the angle of light, keep each day slightly different. But always within the same frame. The men do not name this feeling. They live inside it. Over long stretches of time, what is being built is not only stone. It is also a pattern of living. A structure of days. A structure of movement. A structure of shared understanding that does not need to be spoken. The pyramid rises because the rhythm continues. The rhythm continues because life is shaped around it. There is no separation between the two. Even rest is shaped by the work. Even sleep carries its echoes. The sound of rope tightening. The slow scrape of wood. The steady pull of bodies leaning forward together. These sounds become part of memory. Part of dream. Part of the quiet background of thought. The world here is not divided into many different experiences. It is layered into one continuous flow. Work. Rest. Return. Again. And again. And again. Night arrives once more. As it always does. The men rest. As they always do. The river continues. As it always has. The pyramid stands. As it always will. And in this repetition, there is no urgency. No final point that must be reached quickly. Only continuation. Soft. Steady. Endless in its quiet presence. The sky above slowly fills with stars. The same stars. The same sky. The same gentle silence between them. And beneath it all the world continues to breathe. Slowly. Calmly. Without end. There is a kind of thinking that happens here that does not form into words. It stays soft. Unfinished. Like impressions passing through water. The men who work with stone each day do not spend their hours reflecting on distance or purpose in the way someone might from far away. Instead, their thoughts stay close to the body. To the hands. To the breath. A pull begins, and the mind follows the pull. A pause comes, and the mind settles into the pause. The rhythm becomes the shape of thought itself. There is no need to separate inner life from outer movement. They are the same thing, experienced in different ways. A man adjusts his grip on the rope and feels, without needing to name it, the texture of worn fiber pressing into his skin. He does not think this is rope. He simply feels it. And that feeling becomes enough. Around him, others move in the same quiet awareness. Not isolated, but not merged either. Something in between. A shared presence without spoken connection. Even silence feels structured here. Not empty. Just steady. The world here is never truly silent. But its sounds are gentle enough to blend into each other. The soft scrape of wood over sand. The low creak of rope under tension. The shifting of weight as bodies lean forward together. The distant movement of wind across open land. Even the footsteps themselves do not feel sharp. They sink slightly into the earth before lifting again. There is a softness to everything that happens repeatedly. As if repetition smooths the edges of sound over time. Near the path, a small bird calls once, then again, then falls quiet. No one turns toward it. It is simply part of the air. Part of the space. The men continue their rhythm. Pull. Pause. Breathe. The sounds rise and fall with them. Not separate. Not added. Just present. The land itself seems to participate in this quiet soundscape. The sand, the stone, the wind, the river in the distance all holding their own steady tones. A layered stillness made of movement. The stone does not feel lighter. But the body learns how to carry its encounter with it. There is a difference between reducing weight and learning to move with it. The men understand this without ever needing to express it. Each pull becomes slightly more efficient over time. Not because the stone changes, but because they do. Shoulders align in ways that reduce strain. Feet find better grounding without searching. Breathing adjusts itself before effort begins. The body becomes a quiet system of response. Not resisting. Not fighting. Just adapting. And in that adaptation, something unexpected forms. A kind of ease within effort. Not comfort. But familiarity deep enough to soften difficulty. The work remains heavy. And yet, it is known. And what is known becomes easier to live within. The Nile River continues its slow movement beside all of this. It does not change its pace for the work. It does not reflect on what is being built nearby. It simply flows. Sometimes wide and full. Sometimes narrower and quieter. Always moving forward without visible effort. The men pass by it at the start and end of their day. Its presence becomes part of their rhythm as much as the stone itself. Water drawn from it fills their vessels. Its moisture softens the ground where sledges pass. Its life quietly supports their own. And yet it asks nothing in return. It remains distant enough to feel separate. Close enough to feel included. A quiet companion to everything they do. As the day moves deeper into its middle hours, everything seems to soften slightly. The light grows fuller. The heat settles more evenly across the land. Movements become more measured. Not slower in intention, but slower in expression. The men continue their work, but the pauses between effort grow a little longer. Breathing becomes more noticeable. Rest becomes more necessary. And yet, nothing breaks. The rhythm does not weaken. It simply stretches. Pull. Pause. Breathe. Longer pause. Pull. The pyramid remains in view through all of this. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands unchanged in shape, but different in presence as the light shifts around it. It seems softer in the afternoon heat. Less sharp. More blended into the surrounding land. But still immense. Still certain. The men do not look at it often. Yet it is always there in the background of awareness. Like a thought that never needs to be spoken to remain present. Eventually, without announcement, the direction of the day begins to turn. Not suddenly. Just gently. The pull becomes the last pull. The walk becomes the final walk. The placement becomes the final placement of that cycle. And then the work begins to release its hold for the day. The men do not feel an ending. They feel a return. Ropes are loosened. Tools are gathered. Bodies straighten from long effort. The path is walked once more, but in reverse. The sun lowers slowly. The air begins to soften. Shadows stretch out across the sand, long and calm. The pyramid remains behind them now. Still present. Still growing. But no longer the focus of movement. Only memory of movement. They return to the settlement near the Nile River. And the river receives them again in silence. Night arrives as it always does. The men rest as they always do. The stars appear as they always appear. And somewhere in the distance, the pyramid stands in quiet form, continuing its slow, patient rise. There is no final moment where everything stops. Only the easing of one rhythm into another. Work into rest. Rest into work. Day into night. Night into day. A continuous movement that does not ask to be understood in full. Only experienced. Softly. Steadily. Without end. Sleep does not erase the day here. It softens it. It lets it drift. But it does not remove it. The men lie still beneath the open night, their bodies resting against the earth that held them all day. Their breathing slows into long, even patterns. In sleep, the mind does not fully leave the rhythm of work. It simply changes form. The rope still appears in fragments. Not as an object, but as a feeling of tension in the hands. The slow resistance of weight becomes the sensation of walking through deep water. The pull becomes a kind of drifting motion. Even the silence of the night carries echoes of the day's sounds. Wood against sand. Breath against wind. The faint creak of movement that never fully disappears from memory. No dream is sharp enough to disturb rest. Everything remains soft. Blurred. Like light seen through cloth. The men turn slightly in their sleep, adjusting without waking. The ground beneath them holds a warmth that fades slowly into the cooler air of night. Above them, the stars remain unchanged. They do not move closer. They do not move away. They simply exist in their steady arrangement. And beneath them, life continues in sleep. Quiet. Even. Uninterrupted. The settlement does not become empty at night. It becomes still. There is a difference. The spaces between homes are filled with quiet presence rather than absence. A few embers from earlier fires glow faintly, fading into ash. The air carries the soft smell of smoke that has already cooled. Near the edge of the settlement, the Nile River moves gently in darkness. Its sound is quieter at night, but more noticeable in its absence of interruption. A continuous motion that does not demand attention. Small animals move carefully between shadows. They do not disturb the sleeping men. They pass through the same space without conflict. Everything shares the land without needing agreement. A cloth shifts slightly in the wind. A hand relaxes further into sleep. A foot uncurls from tension. These are the only movements that occur. And even they feel like part of stillness. The night is not empty. It is full of quiet continuation. Before the sky begins to change, there is a moment that belongs neither fully to night nor to morning. It is not marked. It is not seen. It is only felt in the way rest begins to loosen without breaking. A man breathes a little deeper. Another turns his face slightly toward cooler air. The stars above begin to feel less sharp, though they remain in place. The world has not yet changed. But it is preparing. The settlement remains quiet. The river continues its steady movement. The land holds stillness like a held breath. Then, almost imperceptibly, the darkness begins to soften. Not because light has fully arrived, but because darkness itself begins to loosen its hold. The men do not wake all at once. There is no signal, no instruction, just return. One by one, bodies begin to shift. Eyes open without urgency. The ground is still there. The air is still cool. The river is still moving. Nothing has changed. And yet, the day is already beginning again. A man sits up slowly. He does not rush to stand. He simply remains still for a moment, as if listening to something that has no sound. Around him, others begin the same gentle return. A quiet wave of awareness moving through still bodies. Hands touch the ground. Feet find balance. Breathing becomes slightly more deliberate, as if remembering its shape. The sky above begins to shift. Very faintly. The first hint of light spreads across the horizon like a soft breath released. The land does not brighten quickly. It warms into light. The men rise. Not together in perfect sync, but close enough that the movement feels shared. No one speaks loudly. No one needs to. The rhythm has already begun again. The same rhythm as yesterday. And the day before that. And the one before that. It has never truly stopped. The tools are where they were left. The ropes lie in familiar coils. The sledges rest against the same worn ground. Nothing has moved. And yet everything is ready. The men gather them without hesitation. There is no rediscovery. Only continuation. The path is already there beneath the growing light. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands in the distance once more. Not changed. Not closer. Not farther. Simply present. The men begin to walk. Their steps fall into rhythm as easily as breath returns after sleep. The day begins again without announcement. Pull. Pause. Breathe. Walk. Rest. Return. The sequence is the same. And yet, no moment feels identical to the one before. Because time moves through them gently. Without force. Without interruption. As the cycle continues, something quiet forms beneath all action. Not in the work itself, but in the experience of it. A softness that comes from knowing what will happen next without needing to hold it in thought. The body no longer waits for instruction. It responds. The mind no longer searches for direction. It follows. The world becomes a series of familiar transitions. Morning into movement. Movement into effort. Effort into pause. Pause into return. Return into rest. Rest into morning again. And always, beneath it all, the steady presence of stone being placed upon stone. The pyramid rises without urgency. The men move without question. The river flows without hesitation. The sky changes without resistance. Everything continues. Quietly. Softly. As if the world itself has learned a gentle rhythm it never intends to leave. Night will come again. And morning after that. And the work will continue. not because it is forced, but because it is lived. The men will sleep, and wake, and walk, and pull, and return, and rest. And the pyramid will grow in silence between these moments. Layer by layer, day by day. Not as a sudden creation, but as a long, quiet unfolding. And beneath it all the world remains calm, steady, unhurried, endless in its gentle repetition. There is a part of life here that does not stand apart from the stones. It exists beside them, around them, through them. When the men return from the work, they do not become different people. They simply shift their attention from one rhythm to another. The settlement near the Nile River remains small and steady. Homes of mud and reed. Paths softened by repeated footsteps. Spaces shaped by daily return. Families gather in quiet ways. Not with ceremony. Just presence. A man sits near the entrance of his home while a child watches him quietly. The child does not ask many questions. He observes. The way the man's hands rest after a day of rope and stone. The way his shoulders settle when he is no longer pulling against weight. These small details become understanding over time. Not taught. Just seen. Nearby, another man repairs a simple basket. His fingers move slowly, carefully, as if still remembering the rhythm of the day's work. Not because he must, but because the motion itself feels natural now. Everything carries a trace of repetition. Even rest. Even family life. Among the men who work together each day, there is a bond that does not need to be named. It is not built through conversation. It is built through shared effort. Through standing side by side in the same pull. Through feeling the same resistance in the rope. Through pausing at the same moment when breath becomes necessary. They know each other not through words, but through timing. A slight shift in movement is noticed without thought. A delay in breath is felt without signal. A small adjustment in footing is matched almost automatically. This creates something subtle. A kind of quiet trust. Not spoken, but lived. Even in silence, they are aware of one another. Not as individuals separate from the work, but as parts of a shared motion. A single rhythm carried by many bodies. When the day ends, that connection does not disappear. It softens. It rests. But it remains. Like the echo of movement that lingers after sound has faded. The world around them changes slowly enough that it almost feels unchanging. The sand shifts, but only slightly. The river rises and falls, but in a pattern that feels familiar even when it varies. The sky turns through its cycle without interruption. The land holds everything without reacting. It does not rush the men. It does not resist them. It simply exists alongside them. The Great Pyramid of Giza rises within the stillness. Not as something separate from the land, but as something formed from it. Stone drawn from earth. Placed back into structure. Returning material into form. The men do not see it as a finished idea. They see it as continuation. Something that grows the way seasons grow. Slowly. Quietly. Without announcement. Time is not measured in numbers here. It is felt in changes that are almost too small to notice. A hand becomes steadier over months. A movement becomes more efficient. A breath becomes more naturally aligned with effort. The body learns without instruction. It adapts without awareness. What once felt heavy begins to feel familiar. Not lighter, but known. and what is known becomes easier to carry. A man does not think about this change. He simply notices one day that the rope feels less foreign in his hands, that his stance feels more certain, that his body arrives at movement before thought does. This is how time passes here. Not in moments marked by events, but in adjustments so small they only become visible in memory. As the day nears its end, the light changes again. It becomes warmer, lower, more gentle in its reach across the land. Shadows stretch out, longer and quieter than before. The men feel this shift without needing to look at the sky. Their bodies begin to slow slightly. Not from exhaustion alone, but from alignment with the day's closing rhythm. The final pulls feel different. Not easier, but more settled. As if the work itself understands it is nearing pause. The last stone of the cycle is placed. Carefully, without rush, then released into stillness. The men step back. There is no signal, no declaration, only recognition that the day has reached its natural pause. They begin the walk back. The path feels familiar in a different way now. Less like distance, more like return. The Nile River appears again in the distance, reflecting the fading light. A constant presence at both beginning and end. Night does not arrive suddenly. It settles. It moves over the land like a soft covering that does not press down, but holds everything gently in place. The men rest. Their bodies release the rhythm of the day slowly, as if reluctant to let it fully go. The settlement becomes quiet again. Not empty. Just still. Fires burn low. Breaths deepen. The sky fills with stars that appear one by one, as if choosing their place carefully. The pyramid stands in the distance, now barely visible, but not absent. It remains, as it always does. Even when unseen. Even when not thought of. The world continues its slow breathing. Day into night. Night into day. Work into rest. Rest into work. And beneath all of it a calm that does not change. A rhythm that does not end. A life that continues quietly forward, without ever needing to hurry. There is a kind of silence that belongs only to the space between one day ending and another beginning. It is not fully night anymore. But it is not yet morning. It rests in between. Soft. Undefined. The men sleep through most of it, unaware of its passing. Their bodies remain heavy against the ground, breathing slow and even, as if the earth itself is holding them gently in place. The settlement near the Nile River feels suspended during this time. No movement feels urgent. No sound feels out of place. Even the river seems quieter, though it never truly stops. It continues with the same patient flow it has always known. Unchanged. Unhurrying. A few embers from the previous night's fire still glow faintly, barely visible, like memory that has not fully faded. The air is cool. Not sharp. Just balanced. As if the world is resting between breaths. Before waking becomes complete, there is a moment where awareness begins without instruction. It is not a decision. It is a return. A man turns slightly on the ground. His hand loosens. His breathing changes its pattern in a way too subtle to notice fully. Nearby, another man opens his eyes but does not yet move. He looks upward into darkness that is already thinning. The sky has not yet become light. But it is no longer fully dark either. This in-between state holds everything gently. The land is still. The settlement is still. And yet, something within it has already begun to shift. Not forward. Not backward. Just onward. When the light finally returns, it does not feel new. It feels familiar. As if it never truly left. The men rise in the same way they always do. Slow. Unforced. Without urgency. The same gestures return. Hands touching the ground. Bodies adjusting to standing. Eyes taking in the soft change of sky. The tools are where they were left. The ropes rest in familiar coils. Nothing has changed in position. And yet everything is ready again. This quiet readiness is part of the rhythm. It does not need preparation. It simply continues. The path toward the Great Pyramid of Giza waits as it always does. Not impatient. Not expectant. Just present. The men begin walking again. Their steps fall into rhythm without effort. The ground recognizes them as much as they recognize it. There is no moment where work begins in a clear sense. It simply resumes. As if it had been paused rather than stopped. The rope is lifted. The sledges are positioned. The stone waits. And then movement returns. Pull. Pause. Breathe. The cycle continues exactly as before. Yet it never feels identical. Because time, even when repeating, is never truly still. The light shifts slightly. The wind changes direction. A body feels a little different than it did yesterday. These small differences are enough to keep each moment quietly distinct. And still, everything remains within the same pattern. The pyramid is not separate from the day. It does not stand outside of it. It exists within it. As part of it. Each stone placed is not an event on its own, but part of a continuous unfolding. The structure grows slowly beneath the sky, shaped by countless repetitions that never feel final in the moment they occur. The men do not see it as something that is being completed. They see it as something that is continuing. A presence that expands with them. Through them. Around them. The Great Pyramid of Giza remains constant in form, yet always changing in detail. Each day adds without announcing itself. Each moment contributes without standing apart. There is a quiet acceptance that settles into the body over time. Not spoken. Not decided. But lived. The weight of the stone is not questioned. The rhythm of the day is not resisted. The repetition is not measured against anything else. It simply is. And within that is, something soft forms. A steadiness that does not require explanation. A calm that does not depend on change. The men move within this calm. Not as something they are seeking. But as something that already surrounds them. The work continues. The breath continues. The world continues. Evening arrives again. Not as a conclusion. But as a gentle turning. The light lowers. The air softens. The movements slow. The final stone is placed once more into quiet alignment. And then the day releases its hold. The men turn back toward the settlement near the Nile River. Their steps are unhurried. Their bodies familiar with the return. The river receives them again without change. The sky darkens again without effort. The stars return again without notice. And the world continues as it always has in its slow, steady, uninterrupted rhythm. Not ending. Not beginning. Only continuing. Softly. Quietly. Endlessly. Night does not feel separate from the day that came before it. It feels like its continuation. A softer layer laid gently over what already exists. The men rest once more near the settlement by the Nile River. Their bodies settle into the ground with the same familiarity they always carry, as if the earth has learned their shape over time. There is no effort in finding rest. It is already there, waiting. The river continues its slow movement beside them, unchanged by the cycle of human labor that rises and falls along its banks. It does not acknowledge the men. It does not ignore them. It simply flows. A presence without interruption. Above, the night opens fully again. The sky becomes deep, wide, quiet in a way that feels complete rather than empty. Stars appear without urgency, each one settling into its place as if it has always been there. The men do not look for patterns in them. They do not search for meaning. They simply rest beneath them. Even in sleep, the body does not forget. It holds the shape of the day gently within itself. A hand still remembers the rope without tension. A shoulder still holds the memory of weight without strain. A foot still carries the feeling of steady ground moving beneath slow steps. These sensations do not disturb rest. They soften into it, becoming part of the background of sleep. Not active, not absent, just present in a quieter form. A man shifts slightly. His breathing remains steady. Another exhales deeply and settles further into stillness. There is no separation between rest and experience. Everything continues, just at a different depth. The night holds them without resistance, without expectation, without interruption. The land itself does not change its pace for anyone. It never has. It never will. It simply moves through its own steady existence. Sand shifts slowly under the influence of wind that passes without urgency. The river adjusts its edge in small, almost invisible changes that only become clear across long stretches of time. And the sky continues its cycle of darkness and light, as it always has, without deviation. Within this vast consistency, the work near the Great Pyramid of Giza becomes another part of the same rhythm. Not something imposed upon the land, but something that moves with it. The pyramid does not interrupt the world around it. It grows within it, stone by stone, layer by layer, aligned with the same slow patience that defines everything else here. Before there is light, there is change. Not visible at first, but felt. A subtle easing of darkness. A softening of edges in the sky. The night does not disappear. It loosens. The men begin to wake in the same unspoken rhythm as before. Not all at once. Not in sequence. But as if the entire settlement is remembering how to move again. One man opens his eyes. Then another. Then another. The earth is still cool beneath them. The air is still quiet. And yet, the day is already forming. Not beginning. Continuing. They rise as they always do. There is no moment where rest ends and work begins. Only transition. The tools are already where they were left. The ropes already hold their familiar shape. The path already exists beneath the softening light. The men do not prepare for the day. They enter it. The walk begins again toward the Great Pyramid of Giza. No one speaks of distance. No one measures progress. They move because movement is what the day is made of. Pull. Pause. Breathe. This is not instruction. It is rhythm. The stones are always waiting. Not in anticipation. Not in expectation. But in stillness. They rest where they were placed, unchanged by the passing of night. Each one carries the memory of movement that brought it there. Each one holds the quiet impression of effort that shaped its position. The men approach them without hesitation, without urgency, without resistance. The rope is lifted. The sledges are set. The bodies lean forward together. And once again the work resumes. Not as something new, but as something ongoing. Pull. Pause. Breathe. The rhythm returns as if it never left. The sun rises slowly above the land, spreading light across stone, sand, and water alike. The air begins to warm. The shadows begin to shorten. The world moves forward in its familiar way. The men move with it. Not behind it. Not ahead of it. Within it. The pyramid stands in the distance, unchanged in its presence, yet always changing in its form as each day adds to its structure. The Great Pyramid of Giza remains both constant and incomplete, a quiet paradox shaped by time that never hurries. And beneath it all the rhythm continues. Soft. Steady. Without beginning that can be clearly seen. Without ending that can be clearly found. Only continuation. Only presence. Only the slow unfolding of days that feel like breath. Time does not announce when it changes people here. It simply passes through them. Slowly. Without sound. Some faces remain for many seasons. Their expressions becoming more settled, more familiar, shaped gently by repetition rather than surprise. Others appear for a time, then fade from the daily rhythm, replaced by new presence that blends into the same pattern without disruption. No one speaks of arrival or departure as something dramatic. It is simply part of how the rhythm breathes. A man who once walked in the middle of the rope line now moves closer to the beginning, his body adjusted over time into a steadier roll. Another who once struggled with the weight now carries it with quiet familiarity, as if the stone has learned him as much as he has learned it. There is no ranking in this. Only movement. Only place within motion. And the rhythm continues to accept everyone who steps into it. Without resistance. Without question. When words are spoken, they are brief. Not because silence is enforced, but because it is enough. A man might say something small while adjusting his grip. A comment about the heat, or the weight, or the distance of the path that morning. Another might respond with a short nod, or a single word. And then the conversation dissolves back into silence naturally, as if it was never meant to be held for long. There is no need for explanation. No need for continuation. The shared understanding is already present in the work itself. In the pull. In the pause. In the breath that follows. Even laughter, when it appears, is quiet. Not sharp. Not loud. Just a brief softening of the moment before it returns to stillness again. The land absorbs all sound gently. Nothing remains suspended in the air for long. Everything becomes part of the same atmosphere. As the sun rises higher, the land changes its texture. Not in appearance alone, but in feeling. The air becomes denser, heavier. The surface of the sand holds warmth that spreads slowly upward, surrounding everything without force. The men adjust without thinking. Their movements become more deliberate, more economical. Not slower in intention, but more careful in expression. The rhythm adapts without breaking. Pull. Pause. Breathe. Longer pause. The Nile River in the distance reflects the brightness of the sky, its surface shimmering faintly like a quiet mirror of movement. Even in heat, nothing stops. Everything continues. Just differently. The stone still moves. The rope still tightens. The sledges still shift forward along the path carved by repetition. The pyramid still grows, even when the world around it feels heavy with stillness. There is a way the body begins to understand time without measuring it. Not through counting days, but through feeling patterns repeat. A certain weight feels familiar at a certain hour. A certain pause becomes expected before effort begins. A certain fatigue arrives gently in the same part of the day, not as surprise, but as recognition. The men do not name this. They do not analyze it. They live within it. The body becomes a kind of calendar that does not use numbers. Only sensation. Only rhythm. And over long periods, this rhythm becomes more reliable than thought. More constant than memory. More immediate than planning. The body simply knows what comes next. And it moves accordingly. The Great Pyramid of Giza does not belong to any single day. It is not defined by one morning or one evening. It exists across all of them at once. A structure built not from isolated events, but from continuous return. Each stone is part of a larger motion that cannot be separated into beginning and end without losing its meaning. The men who build it do not think of it as a finished object waiting somewhere in the future. They experience it as something unfolding alongside them. Something that exists only through participation. Through repetition. Through presence. And because of this, it never feels distant. It feels immediate. Even when its full shape cannot be seen. As the day continues, the light begins to soften once more. The heat releases its hold gradually. The shadows grow longer and quieter. The rhythm of work shifts again toward its final form. The last movements of the day carry a different weight. Not heavier, but more settled. As if the world itself is easing toward rest alongside the men. The final stone is placed. Carefully. Without pause that feels unnecessary. And then the work releases its grip for the day. No signal is needed. No instruction is given. The rhythm itself makes the decision. The men turn away from the path. From the stones. From the structure that continues to rise in silence behind them. They begin the walk back toward the settlement near the Nile River. The return is always the same. And always slightly different. Because time never repeats exactly. It only resembles itself. Night returns once more. Softly. Completely. The men rest. The river continues. The pyramid stands. The stars appear. And the world settles into its familiar quiet rhythm again. There is no conclusion. No final moment where everything becomes still forever. Only cycles. Only continuation. Only the gentle unfolding of days that move forward without urgency. The land remains calm. The sky remains wide. The rhythm remains unbroken. And everything stone, water, wind, breath continues softly into the next quiet moment. There is no clear place where a long story like this truly ends. Only a moment where it becomes quieter. Where movement slows. Where the rhythm continues, but no longer needs to be followed step by step. The men return once more to the settlement near the Nile River. As always. As they always have. The river flows beside them without change in its voice or its direction. The same water. The same motion. The same quiet presence that has been there through every beginning and every return. The firelight is low again. Soft again. The same way it has always been at the end of a day. The men sit. Or lie down. Or simply remain still in the space between effort and rest. No one marks this moment as important. Because nothing here has ever depended on a single moment. Everything has always depended on continuation. The work at the Great Pyramid of Giza does not feel finished in the mind of those who built it. It does not feel unfinished either. It simply exists in the same quiet state it has always been in. Becoming. Stone by stone. Day by day. Breath by breath. Night settles fully now. Not as an ending, but as a covering that does not erase what came before. Only softens it. The stars appear as they always do. One by one. Without announcement. Without change. The men sleep again. The river continues again. The land remains again. And the rhythm that has carried everything forward, work, rest, movement, stillness, does not stop here. It does not need to. Because it was never a story about beginning or ending. It was a story about what continues. Quietly. Steadily. Without interruption. And as everything fades into stillness once more, there is only the calm presence of time itself moving forward gently, like breath, that never forgets to return.